What's going on, guys? CGG Matt back. If you haven't paid attention to the NBA recently, I got you. I got a few storylines here that you should pay attention to and that we're all paying attention to coming down the stretch of this season. Don't forget to like, subscribe if you're new to the channel. The first one we're going to be talking about is the MVP race because that's the biggest one, in my opinion at least. It's the biggest individual award in the sport, of course, the MVP. The candidates for the award this year, in my opinion, the top two are Shai and Nikola Jokic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They both had incredible seasons. The issue, they both may miss the NBA 65-game marker, that is in order to make award voting. If you play sub-65 games, you are ineligible to make any award or NBA team, All-NBA first team, or anything like that. So there's always a chance that Shai, who is currently out right now, and maybe back in March, I believe they said, somewhere around mid-March maybe earlier than that, he may miss that qualifier. Nikola Jokic missed a good portion of the season now. As a matter of fact, he only has one more game he can miss. If Nikola Jokic misses 2 games, he will be ineligible to win the MVP award. If Shai Gilgeous-Alexander misses about 5 more games, I think it's going to be somewhere around 5 if he can't come back anytime soon. Another guy who's popped his head around the MVP conversation is Victor Wembanyama a little bit. I know he's not a favorite, but he is in the running right now. Victor Wembanyama can only miss, 4 games. Wemby can only miss 4 games before he's ineligible for any award. That includes Defensive Player of the Year as well. So, with the MVP, what I will say is, it's all dependent on whether Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jokic hit the requirements. If they do, you're probably going to get those two as the top 2. They've had the best seasons in the league. Shai's averaging 32 a game, 6.5 assists, and 4.5 rebounds per game. He's also shooting 55 from the field, 39 from 3, and 89 from the free throw line. That is so close to 50-40-90 splits. We would love to see some 50-40-90s. I love efficiency. Meanwhile, Nikola Jokic is averaging 28.5 points, 10.5 assists, and 12.5 rebounds on 59, 41, 83. So he's not that close to 50-40-90. It's 7% off at the free throw line. You're not going to clean that up. But still, a 50-40 season from a big man is pretty damn good. Also, the 10.5 assists leads the NBA. The 12.5 rebounds per game leads the NBA. He leads the NBA in 2 statistical categories, and he's top 10 in scoring. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the league's best scorer. Also, he's still been a really good defender, and like I said, 50-40-90 splits almost. It's pretty damn incredible. I know the on-off numbers don't say Shai's the best defender on the team, blah, blah, blah. It's because everyone around him is an elite defender as well. Of course, when Aaron Wiggins or Kenrich Williams subs in for him, the defense isn't going to take a dip. So, of course, his on-off numbers are going to be a little bit skewed defensively. He's still a neutral defensively. Jokic defensively is still kind of a neutral as well. I know the narrative is he stinks on defense. For the most part, he can get away with being mid to neutral on defense. He has good hands. He can reach in at perfect times. He steals a lot of bounce passes or passes in the lane in general. He gets his hands on a lot of things. Not really a rim protector, but he can get the job done down low. But if the trio of Jokic, Shai, and Wemby all miss award voting, who would be the MVP? For me, I would probably give it to Cade Cunningham. That would be my guy. Cade is having an incredible season. The Detroit Pistons are the 1 seed by about head and shoulders. They got 6 games on the Celtics. That's plenty of space between them. Cade Cunningham is eligible, but as are the likes of Jaylen Brown, Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic's name has been in there, of course. He's not. I don't think he's in the top 5 of MVP odds. He might be somewhere around there, but he's not really the favorite right now. Having a sneaky, really good season. It's also because the Lakers have been kind of good and then not at times. They're very up and down. We'll talk about them a little bit later. Luka Doncic is in there. Jaylen Brown, Cade Cunningham are the top 3 if all 3 of the combo of Shai, Jokic, Wemby were to miss the 65-game mark. If Jokic and Shai are both healthy down the stretch, they both hit the 65-game mark, I'm probably going to give it to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I probably will, to be honest with you. I love Nikola Jokic, I really do. But of recently, the Nuggets have not been, as good. They just put up a $150 the other night. But they have not been as good with Jokic recently. They played really good without him, actually. This team is deeper than the championship team of the past, I will say that. They played really good basketball, but also the Thunder have kind of struggled a little bit without Shai, even though they did just pick up a big win against Cleveland before the recording. I'm not here to explain my MVP, though. I want you guys to do it down in the comments. Tell me who would be your MVP pick if the combo of Shai, Jokic, and Wemby, none of them hit 65 games. Would it be Luka? Would it be JB? Would it be Cade? Let me know down below. Another big storyline we're going to move on to, the 3 to 6 seed, 3 through 6 in the Western Conference, separated by a big 1 game. 1 game separates 3 and 6. Unbelievable how tight the Western Conference is, especially around the middle. The Thunder have kind of moved themselves up a little bit, and it's really a 2-man race down the stretch for the 1 seed between the Spurs and the Thunder. If the Spurs can gain ground on the Thunder, hey man, I'm not saying that the Thunder should panic because the Spurs have kind of whooped their ass this year, but I will say the Thunder are a team that I don't really worry about playoff time. They've had stretches, obviously, now without Shea, but before they were without Hartenstein for a little bit. They've kind of struggled with injuries. I think they're out Caruso now, too. So they've struggled with injuries. I'm not really panicked with the Thunder, but if they were to lose the 1 seed, would be very interesting, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We'll go through each team 3 through 6, and I'm going to explain everything that you need to know about said team. We're going to start off with the Denver Nuggets. They've been pretty injury-riddled. They've had stretches without Cam Johnson, stretches without Jokic, stretches without Aaron Gordon, who's still currently out until about mid-March. It's going to be really tough for them to stay in that 3 spot down the stretch. I will say they have the league's hardest schedule remaining, the league's toughest. That includes 3 versus the Thunder, 3 versus the Spurs, 2 versus the Celtics, plus a game against the Rockets as well. The hardest strength of schedule in the league for a team that has been injury-ravaged and is still trying to figure out their rotations. Speaking of rotations, 5 out of their top 6 lineups for the Denver Nuggets have yielded horrible defensive results in terms of points per 100 possessions. Actually, there's only one. There's only one, and out of their top 6 lineups that have yielded 1 positive, and you want to know who's in that lineup that's in none of the other lineups? Aaron Gordon. Gordon's still out, obviously, but it's not talked about nearly enough how much of a real, defensive anchor he can be for this team and how needed and how much of a necessity he is for them to win games. Yes, this team is deeper than they ever have been in Denver, but without Aaron Gordon, their defense has clearly lacked, and I'm sure we can all say that. The Nuggets have played 28 clutch games this season and are 14-14, right down the middle 500. That's not really what you want to see for a team with the best player in the league. You want him to be able to close out, but he hasn't been there for all of them, obviously. So let's talk about that 500 record. They have the 2nd worst defensive rating in the league in the clutch. I'll repeat for the people in the back. In clutch time, they have the 2nd worst defensive rating in basketball. They've played 28 clutch games. That's a pretty decent sample size right there. Their defense can't get stops when needed. But like I said, most of those games have been without Aaron Gordon, so it's really hard to judge. It's really hard to win games with that 2nd worst defense in the clutch, especially when you have the 7th best offensive rating in the clutch. Their offense still moves well. Tim Hardaway Jr., Jamal Murray, a lot of these guys have really helped out around Jokic this season and chipped in offensively. Offensively is the only issue. Their team defense is slipping. It has not been as elite as it once was. And again, I'm acknowledging Aaron Gordon's a big part of that. But damn, man, when you have the 2nd worst defensive rating in clutch games, you got to feel like there's something there. In clutch games in general, they have the 9th worst net rating in the NBA. So they're a bottom 10 net rating team in clutch games. They are still 500, though, so I guess that's something. Like I said, though, they've been injury-ravaged, and they're still trying to figure out their rotations. They've gone stretches of the season without Nikola Jokic. They've gone stretches of this season without Christian Brown. They've gone stretches of the season without Aaron Gordon, Cam Johnson. They've lost key guy after key guy. They went some weeks without Valanciunas. They keep losing guys in and out, and Adelman can't get a rotation down when once someone comes back, the next guy goes out. Really hard to build a rotation. They give you a lot of reason to believe, simply because they have the best player in the NBA and one of the deepest teams in the league, in my opinion. Like, Jalen Pickett's buried on their bench, and he's had some really big games. So they have a really deep team, but it's really hard to believe in them when their defense needs to be fixed up badly and quickly. Whether they win or lose this game, they're currently playing on the screen in front of me. They've allowed a big 75 points to the Warriors at halftime. 75 to the Warriors without Curry, Draymond, Jimmy Butler, a lot. They're without their top line guys, and you've allowed 75 points to them. That's outright ridiculous and just too many. Up next, we'll talk about the Houston Rockets and get off my Dickerson. The Rockets down the stretch have the 25th hardest schedule in the league, so the 5th easiest. With the games they have left, they have 1 game versus the Spurs and the Nuggets, so that's pretty big. 2 versus the Lakers and Timberwolves as well. So they do have some really big matchups down the stretch here against teams in that 3 to 6 range that can help vault them to the top or the bottom. Since the new year started for the Rockets, they have the 2nd worst 3-point percentage in the league, the lowest true shooting percentage in the league, and worst effective field goal percentage in the league. Pretty much the tail of the tape for the Rockets. Their offense has been horrible since the new year. Everything about it. They can't make a 3. They can't buy a 3. A lot of the guys that were shooting well to start the season have kind of dipped. Dorian Finney-Smith still can't buy a three. He's come back from injury, and he can't hit anything. He can't hit the broadside of a barn with a fucking snow shovel. Holding too many snow shovels recently. Am I right, upstate people? Either way, the Houston Rockets, their defense is still elite. They have a top 10 defense over that same time span since January 1st. So a top 10 defense, and they're still, I believe, a top 5 rebounding team as well. This team was built on rebounding, defense, and second chance points. They're still doing a damn good job at that. But man, is it hard to win games when you can't consistently buy a three-pointer. They do a really good job at still limiting possessions for the other team because of how good their offensive rebounding is. But the thing is, if you can't cash out with threes, those offensive rebounds, they stack up to nothing. You're not getting second chance points. The thing is, when after an offensive rebound, a kickout is usually the best offense after an offensive rebound. If you can't make the kickout three after the offensive rebound, you just made your center look like a jackass for not trying to lay up. Amen Thompson has had a couple of big games recently. Of course, the drama around them has been Kevin Durant and his inability to get the fuck off of social media and just shut up for 5 minutes. I love you, Kevin. You're an all-time great and a legend of the game, but why? There was no need for any of this to happen. Whoever leaked the DMs, by the way, that's dirty macking. That's dirty work. I don't blame you. I don't blame you. Some of the DMs were hilarious. If you haven't seen them, go do your own research. It's 5 seconds. But it's all-time funny moment from Kevin Durant, but also at the same time, not exactly sure how it's going to reverberate around the Rockets locker room. Jabari Smith Jr. has had a couple of decent games since Kevin Durant's tweets came out about, well, not tweets, but DMs came out calling him a short bus rider, I guess, is one way of framing it. I love Jabari Smith Jr. I actually called him underrated a few weeks ago. But, man, this is the story with the Rockets right now. It's just the story of the month with the Rockets. I'm sure everyone will forget it in 2 months, whatever. But as of right now, everyone's wondering, can they bounce back from Kevin Durant doing what he did? They also struggle with just shot creation in general. That's a thing I didn't mention in the script that I feel like I should impromptu. They struggle with shot creation. Reed Shepherd has on games and off games. It's only year 2 for him. He's struggling to find it consistently. Okay, that's excusable. A year 2 guy struggling to find consistency still, especially when he's just now getting the playing time because last year he didn't get much. Understandable. But the rest of the team, it's a lot of vets over there, and we can't put together consistent offense or shot creation or even good looks. The majority of the team is vets. Capella, Aaron Holiday's over there. J.D. Davison's like 27. He's older for a G Leaguer. They're relying a lot on J.D. Davison to be a good backup point guard down the stretch, too. It's a little spooky. Either way, they don't have a ton of shot creators over there. They're a really big team, and Amen can't create outside of within like 10 feet. So it's really difficult to find spacing. It's really difficult to get open looks from anyone. And even when you do, if it's goddamn Dorian Finney-Smith open from 3, I'm sure the defense is okay with that. On to the Lakers. The Lakers have the 10th hardest schedule remaining in the NBA. That includes 2 games against the Thunder, the Nuggets, and the Rockets. It's a pretty big 6-game stretch right there. The thing is, they're 11-13 against teams over 500. That's something to worry about. It really is. They have had a very hard time against teams over 500. They are a team that has also struggled with some injuries in some spots as well. You're talking about Austin Reeves missing a good amount of time. LeBron missed the start of the year. He's going to miss a lot of games because he's just old. Shit happens. Luka has also missed some time, so that definitely doesn't help either. But they're all healthy now. They've come back together. They've congealed. They are healthy now. They have Rui. They have Ayton. Their team is healthy, whether it's good or not. Really up to you. The thing that the Lakers are good at, closing. They are 16-3 in clutch games. Anytime it enters a clutch game, it feels like the Lakers have it on ice. In clutch games, they shoot 52% from the field. That is the best in the league by a good margin. So they know how to create efficient offense down the stretch, and obviously they have LeBron, they have Luka, they have Reeves. They can find open shooters, they can find cutters, and they can throw drop-off passes to Ayton, and hopefully he just doesn't fuck it up. Austin Reeves is back, as I just mentioned. He's back into the starting lineup as well with no minutes restriction because he had been on minutes restriction coming off the injury. He's back to no more training wheels, and he's been really damn good for them. Since the new year, the Lakers are 8th in offensive rating, but 20th in defensive rating. Similar to the Nuggets, they can create good offense, but they can't consistently get stops. On the full season, the Lakers' defensive rating is 24th at 116.7, but in the clutch, the Lakers' defensive rating is a 107.4. That's a 9-point drop-off. That really does mean a lot in the grand scheme of things. There's also reason to believe that the Lakers can make noise similar to a Houston, similar to a Denver. They can really make a conference finals run if we really think about it. The thing is, just like Denver, can they get stops consistently? And I'm not sure I believe in it. Similar to Denver, I'm not sure I believe in it. Simply because Ayton is a big worry, man. He's a really big worry for me. He had a really good start to the year, but he is not a rim protector. He has struggled this year defensively. It's been on and off for him. And when he's not there, it's Jackson Hayes, who is a good energy big man, a fine backup big man, but he just doesn't have enough size for a lot of the traditional centers today. Also on the perimeter, there's definitely some worries there. They added Luke Kennard at the deadline, which isn't bad, all things considered. I mean, he's not an awful NBA player. He can hit the open threes you're giving him, but he doesn't help shore up the defense at all. Marcus Smart's still there. Rui's there. Laravia's there. That can give you a plus defense, hopefully. So they have guys that they can throw on your best player. They're just not really that good at defenders. So they really do struggle getting stops in the half court, and especially with Reeves back in that lineup. I don't know where the stops are going to come from, but hey, they're going to figure it out. Jared Vanderbilt's there. Lastly, the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Timberwolves come in with the third hardest strength of schedule remaining, with one game against the Thunder, Nuggets, and Lakers, and then 2 games against the Rockets as well. They're another team that can really vault up or really vault down, because they're a team that goes really hot or cold as well, in my opinion at least. They run hot or they run cold. The Timberwolves are another team that's kind of struggled against teams over 500 at 12-13. It's sub 500, just like the Lakers are, so there's definitely some cause for concern there. The thing that I really do like about the Timberwolves that they have an advantage on a lot of other teams with is the fact that they're top 10 in offensive and defensive rating. They've really put it together this season, but it really does help when you got Rudy Gobert down there. He's a walking top 5 defense. The Timberwolves are 13-12 in clutch games, but they are a middle-of-the-pack group in the clutch when it comes to offensive and defensive rating. Again, that's over a 25-game sample, which I think is respectable enough, especially for clutch time. And net rating, they're around middle of the pack as well in the clutch. So really, they just kind of don't stand out late in games. And in my opinion, you know why they don't stand out? Because they don't have a point guard that can get them easy offense. Oh, it's like talking about the Rockets all over again. I love Anthony Edwards. He's a hell of a shot creator, one of the best tough shot makers in the NBA, if not the best, right? I saw him hit a layup the other day where he went up with the 2 hands. The defender crossed both of his arms, slapped down, knocked both of his arms down. He flips it up, banks it in. He's a tough shot maker. Problem is that they don't have a guard that can get them easy looks late. Anthony Edwards is a hell of a scorer, not a hell of a passer. A good passer. I'm not saying he's terrible at it, but he's not a passer. He's a scorer-first guy. He's aggressive. He wants to get downhill, especially when his threes aren't going. When his threes aren't going, he really gets into that mode of like, I'm blitzing the rim and I'm going to try and yam on you, whether there's 1 person or 10 people in the lane. I'm dunking this fucking ball. I love Anthony Edwards. He's a dog, but they don't have anybody that can really create offense over there outside of him. Julius Randle in the clutch has been known to not perform well. The spin moves and he dribbles in traffic so often. He might be the player that drives into traffic most often up there with Jaylen Brown. But a lot of their late game offense in Minnesota is just relying on Anthony Edwards. And hey, it's not a bad strategy, all things considered, but it does make you worry a little bit. Here's the good part, though. Mid-season, they added Ayo Dosunmu at the trade deadline from the Chicago Bulls. Although he's not a traditional point guard, he's not really a guard that runs the offense, he can get you a couple of assists, and he does knock down his open shots, and he runs well on the break. Ayo Dosunmu is a terrific player, all-around good player that really does help add to Minnesota's depth. The other teams that I mentioned here really didn't do anything at the deadline. Houston made no trades. The Lakers got Luke Kennard, and the Nuggets made a few penny trades to get Spencer Jones got a 2-year deal. They traded... they didn't trade Daron Holmes. They traded somebody. They made a bunch of minor trades. Hunter Tyson was who they traded. They really didn't do a ton, right? The Wolves went out. They got Ayo Dosunmu. That changes their outlook in my eyes, even though they haven't played the best basketball with him, all things considered. I think they've only lost 1 game with him, so I guess it's not the worst thing. 3-1 is not a bad record with Ayo Dosunmu. I think he's a really good basketball player, super talented, and helps them do a lot of things. Helps run their offense a little bit better, so it gives me a lot of confidence in them when they go out and they make moves like adding Ayo Dosunmu. That's something that they have a leg up on the competition with, is the fact that they got better at midseason. All right, enough talking about the West. I want to talk about, can anyone out-tank the Kings? We're talking about a way less serious topic. Everyone's talking about how to stop tanking. I'm asking who's going to tank the most, okay? I'm taking it a step further. You all want to abolish tanking? No. I want to see starting 5s out there of guys who should still be in college. I want to see a starting 5 of guys who could still be playing in the Big 3 league. Give me Coutinho Mobley out there for the Kings for one night. I don't know. The Kings suck. They've currently lost 15 straight games. 15. It's not a typo. They're awful. top to bottom. Zach LaVine's done for the year. Sabonis is done for the year. And Keegan Murray, DeAndre Hunter. DeAndre Hunter's done for the year. I'm not sure. I think Keegan's back. But either way, they're hurt. They're all done for the year. One was a knee, one was a hand, and DeAndre Hunter was an eye surgery. They're all done for the year. The Kings do have the third easiest schedule left in the game. 2 more games versus the Pelicans. That's the game right there. Those are the biggest games of the season, Kings versus Pelicans. I know, if you've been paying attention, you know Kings versus Pelicans is the game of the year. They also have one more game remaining against the Jazz, Grizzlies, Mavs, and Pacers, who all have a chance to out-tank them. Currently, they have, I believe, 15 wins on the season, or 16. Absolutely embarrassing franchise, all things considered. But I'd say the Wizards are the biggest threat to take the Kings' spot, as they have, for the worst record in the league, as the Wizards have the 4th hardest strength of schedule left in the NBA. So they can really get pummeled, especially with no Trey or AD. Keyshawn George has been dinged up with a minor injury. Things can really, really go bad for Washington, and I don't think they really mind. Let me know down in the comments, who do you want to get the first overall pick, if not the Kings? I don't know who I want to get the first overall pick. I think it would be hilarious to give, the Wizards the first overall pick. I don't know. It'd be fun. Spitball it. Talk about it down below. Who do you think is going to get the number 1 pick? Talk about it. Last thing I want to talk about is the race for the 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. The 2 to 4 seed in the Eastern Conference is separated by 1 game. So you go on a 2-game losing skid, you can easily go from the 2nd seed to the 4th seed, and you lose home court advantage later in the playoffs, just like that. The 2 and 5 seed are separated by 3.5 games. If you're the 5 seed, you lose home court advantage the entire playoffs, basically. So that makes it really difficult down the stretch, I'll tell you that. So 3.5 games separating the 2 to the 5. It's pretty close. Just like I did out west, I want to detail and profile these teams for you so you can get the picture of what they do well and what they do poorly. Since the start of the new year, the Celtics are 16-7 for their record. They are 3rd in offensive rating and 5th in defensive rating over that same time frame. And they also have the 2nd best net rating in the NBA since the start of the new year. Another fun fact, since January 1st, the Celtics have allowed the least paint points in the NBA to their opponents. The Celtics still aren't even shooting well, all things considered. They rank 21st in true shooting percentage over that same time frame since January 1st. The thing that's really helped them is the fact that they have won games with offensive rebounding and really slow pace. Dredge skip ball, as I like to say. We're going to drag you into the pit, play dredge skip ball. All these stats are since January 1st. They are 4th in offensive rebounding, 3rd in defensive rebounding, and 2nd in overall rebounding. They've controlled the glass. They've added Nikola Vucevic, which helps them control the glass even more. They've been playing a double big at times with Keita and Garza starting at the same time. That's yielded some interesting results as well. I mentioned pace before. We can discuss that. The Celtics' pace is currently at 94.45 since January 1st. That is the best in the NBA, the slowest in the NBA, not the best. It's the slowest in the NBA. The second closest is the Rockets at 95.7. That's a full 1 point. Comfortable playing deep into the shot clock. They do it very often. It's because they have 2 of the better isolation players in the NBA, whether you like it or not. Jaylen Brown, of course, you guys know, is one of the best isolation basketball players in the league. Once he gets to that mid-range area, you're kind of at his will. Everyone knows Jaylen Brown's really good at making pull-up jumpers when he gets to the mid-range, and he can finish around the basket well. What we don't talk about, Peyton Pritchard is having one of the best isolation scoring seasons of all time. I had to find the stat again. Peyton Pritchard is having, by statistics, the most efficient scoring season in isolation over the last decade. He's currently averaging 1.3 points per possession on isolations. That is the best in the NBA, the most since 2016. But it's actually technically the most since Kyrie Irving in 22-23 at 1.28. But Peyton Pritchard, his bag work has been incredible. That is with a minimum of 100 total isolation possessions. Because if you just sort by regular isolation possessions, you'll get Guy Santos, Josh Hart, Drew Smith. They don't do that. They're very comfortable playing deep into the shot clock because they have 2 of the best isolation scorers in the NBA, and that also allows them to get back and set their defense as well as crash the glass. When there's only 2 seconds left and you have to get a shot up, you can rotate a lot easier down to go track a rebound because you know a shot's got to go up. Currently, the Celtics have the 6th hardest strength of schedule left in the NBA. They have 2 games left against OKC, but then 1 game left against the Nuggets, Knicks, Spurs, and Cavs. The Knicks and the Cavs game are going to be massive on the standings, especially because they lost their last game against the Knicks. They may be getting Jason Tatum back. We can throw that little nugget in there as well. If they get Jason Tatum back, Tatum at 80% is better than some of their bench guys, just outright. I'd rather play Jason Tatum at 80% than Baylor Shireman at 100%. That's no shot to Baylor. It's just how good Jason Tatum is. He may come back. He may not. I'm not sure. He's not even sure. He said there's no return date set yet. On to the New York Knicks. The Knicks have turned around a ton since the beginning of the new year. I mean, the last time I talked about the Knicks in depth, they were coming off of another 4-game losing streak, which had been their second over the last month stretch. They've been playing really really bad basketball from December to January, but they've turned it around recently. In my opinion, the defense has been the difference. They rank 4th in defensive rating since January 1st. They have held their opponents to sub 105 points 8 times over the last 2 months. That's really incredible. You don't see that very often in the NBA nowadays, with the three-point shot being as widely taken as it is now. Everyone's got the green light. You don't really see many teams scoring sub 105 nowadays, but the Knicks have done it 8 times. They've done a really good job at closing possessions as well, ranking 3rd in opponents' second chance points allowed on the season, and 1st since January 1st. So they rank 1st in that statistic since January 1st. They've been really damn good at closing possessions. Karl Anthony Towns, I know he was a problem for them a while back at the beginning of the year when they were on that skid, but he slowly turned it around, crashed the glass, be angry defensively. You don't have to score 25 a night if you're doing the small things, the intangibles. They're also 6th in opponent paint points allowed, so they don't allow a ton of paint points. In my opinion, that's not Karl Anthony Towns doing that. That's not Mitchell Robinson. It's not OG Anunoby. It's Jalen Brunson, the below-the-rim rim protector, as I believe he called himself last night or the night before. That's a pretty funny quote, so I'm going to keep using that. Jalen Brunson, the below-the-rim rim protector, the charge taker, essentially. The Knicks have the 10th easiest schedule remaining in the NBA, but they have 1 game left against Boston, like I mentioned, and 1 game left against Cleveland. Again, 2 teams that are really on their tail or above them in the standings. They can really vault themselves up with a couple of good games. They got better at the deadline, which is another thing that I applauded the Timberwolves for. I'll now applaud the Knicks for doing that. They added Jose Alvarado, who's made a big difference. Currently, in his games with the Knicks, he's averaging 11 points, 4 assists, and 2.5 steals per game while shooting 37.5% from 3. I believe he had an 8-3 game the other night. The Knicks have brought him in and just allowed him to bomb from 3 and be that defensive pest that he was, in New Orleans and basically his whole career. He's been really damn good with the Knicks, his energy, and he's back in New York. Who'd have thought that would have been a match made in heaven? I think everyone did. Lastly, we got the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavs are one of the hottest teams in the league. They've won 7 straight games before they just lost a game to the Thunder, as, like I said, right before I started recording. Over the last 18 games, including the Thunder loss, they're 14-4. Some of those were without James Harden. They are 2nd in the league in field goal percentage and 5th in the league in three-point percentage since the new year. They rank 2nd in assists over that same time frame, averaging about 30 assists per game. I like using since the start of the new year as a frame of reference for a lot of these stats because some teams, like the Knicks or the Cavs, made big adjustments coming out of the break. And I want that to kind of reflect it. And since January is a more recent sample size, so you see what they're doing well. The Cavs are another team that, in my opinion, has very much so struggled with injuries this year. Evan Mobley's missed time. Darius Garland's missed time before getting traded. Jared Allen missed some time. Sam Merrill's missed time. I believe they've all missed over 10 games at this point. So they have had some guys in and out as well. Max Strus still hasn't played a game yet. Since James Harden's got there, the offense has clicked better, but I think it's still too small of a sample size for me to officially say, yeah, they're an elite offense. I can compliment him and say he's done really well at moving the ball. He's been active, unlike Darius Garland. I mean, he's in the game. That's the bare minimum. That's what they've needed out of him. He's been durable. His float game has added that same element that Darius Garland's did, but he does add a little bit better positional size. He's just a bigger guy than Darius Garland is. And again, he has 2 feet that are able to walk. Darius Garland has struggled to get on the court with a toe injury. Recently, though, their bench has helped a ton. Their bench ranks 4th in net rating and 6th in offensive rating for their bench unit. That's pretty damn good. Again, they deepen their bench at midseason, adding Schroeder and Keon Ellis, which are 2 decent players. Good defender in Keon Ellis and a good rim attacker in Dennis Schroeder. You combo that with Jalen Tyson, Naquan Tomlin, Sam Merrill, who's now back, and a couple of other guys. They got a really decent bench over there. I really do believe in the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think with the trade for James Harden, they can come out of the East. But again, I want to preface that by also saying, James Harden doesn't have the playoff track record. So I don't know. James Harden-led teams have historically let me down, so I don't really want to gamble on it. But at the same time, the Cavs have looked really, really good. They have the 5th easiest schedule remaining in the league, but they have 2 games against Detroit, 1 against the Celtics, Knicks, and 76ers, so they can really shoot themselves up in the standings if they continue to play the way that they have been this season. They should have picked up a win against the Thunder. That's a bad loss. I think they'll all tell you that, but you're going to lose one every once in a while, especially when you're rolling like they have been. There you go. I've caught you up with all the storylines you've needed for coming down the stretch of this NBA season. If you haven't been watching, haven't been paying attention, hey, maybe you haven't. You just wanted to learn something. No matter what you came to this video for, you should like and subscribe because you made it to the end. Thank you all for joining me. I'm going to go catch a game. I'll see you guys in the next one.